In this lesson, we will finalize the shot. So, as I said, I went around and duplicated the cell and arranged them just to get the look that I'm going for. So as you see, I added a couple of them that are smaller, a couple of them that are really huge, and just to use them as a foreground element. And now for the next stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some blur to some of these guys, just to get that look of a Z depth. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and just fake it. So first, I'm going to start with the background. So go ahead and just click on the background, the stars. I'm going to name this Milky Way. All right, and go into Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I think something around these lines look good. All right, just to make like these small are like really small cells which are really back in the background, and these are floating on top. Now for the main one, the one that is in the foreground, again I'm gonna add some some blur to it. Again, Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, just to make it like it's out of focus. That's because it's really close to the camera. And again, I'm gonna add some opacity to it, or maybe play around with the fill. Alright, a bit, not too much, just so we can see the one behind it. One other thing we can do, this is why we use the smart object. The smart object is, I think, one of the most powerful tools that Photoshop, when the Photoshop CS started, it's one of the most powerful tools, and I really love using it. So one of the things you can see is, let's go ahead and select this guy here, and have Control T or Command T, and here let's go ahead and just select, and this is switches between to get this wrap up control transform. And what this would let us do is we'll go ahead and tweak the shape of this just so we can get some other looking shape for the cells. Alright, and again we'll do the same thing for this guy, and it won't, and this is non-destructive, and I'll let you know exactly what I mean by that. Because now, in any of these, you can go ahead and double click on it, and it says it will open up you have to commit the changes. Once open up the smart object, it will open up exactly the cell file that when we started this lesson. So here we have the specular, the reflection. So let's see what how much powerful this is. I'm going to go ahead and add another adjustment layer to all of it, and I'm going to go ahead and add a hue and saturation for all, so I'm not going to clip it, and I'm going to change the color of this something really green. Let's go Hulk cell. Alright, and let's save this. So now if we go back into the new image, alright, this is what we get. So you see, because each of one of these are a duplicate of the same one, we don't have to go in and change each one of those. If we change one of the smart objects, it will change across all the others. If you want to create an original smart object, by that I mean one that stands on its own, so it's a duplicate and not a reference duplicate, or how we call it in Maya. So you can do is right click, and you'll get something new smart object via copy. So what this will do, it will create a new one. So what I mean is, if we take this one and move it, double click on this one, and for this one I'm going to remove the hue saturation and save it. You see, this one will affect only this smart object and not the others. Alright, so I'll delete this and go back to one of these guys, and let's do some tweaks. I'm going to go ahead and just delete the hue and saturation and just save it. Alright, now I'm going to close this again. Let's do this to the other ones as well. Just add some some ununiform look to it, just to so these guys don't look all of them the same. I'd feel free to go crazy with this. I can move these guys, make it shape. Alright. Something like that. Alright. Now, one thing you can see is when I added the Gaussian blur on these guys, especially for the guy in the cell in the front, you'll see that it added something that's called a smart filter. And you can turn this off. And you can even go back in and tweak it. So you can double click on this and you can add more Gaussian blur to this. And this is because this is a smart object. And this is the beauty of the smart object. You can add even a Gaussian blur is not destructive, so you can go back and tweak it. So if you're working for a client and the client comes back and says, you know what, I don't really like the foreground blur of the foreground element, and I really want to tone that down, you don't have to create that to get that image in as a PNG and just blur it again and try to fit the look. No, you can go into it, just double clicking on the smart filter, checking the Gaussian blur, and just tweak it down or tweak it up depending on the look that you're going for or the change that you're going for. Again, I'm going to go ahead and tweak this, add more Gaussian blurs to them just to make them more interesting, so we get the different looks of focus. This is the only one that will stay fully focused. Maybe this one as well. Just so it's like this center. As I said, this will be like the center piece for our shot. Maybe I'm gonna duplicate this again. Move one underneath it. Something around here. And we're gonna tone down the opacity of that. Like it's really far away. Again, you can tweak down the opacity, add some Gaussian blur to this one, and you can make it as blurry or as maybe a bit blurry more. And for the small guy, I'm gonna add some Gaussian blur to this guy as well and make it really blurry because this is like really far, it's really small. Alright, I'm gonna add some Gaussian blur to this guy as well. Alright, not that strong, something around this. Add some opacity to this. Again, the same thing for this one. Maybe I'll make it a bit bigger. Alright, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Again, make this really blurry. Alright, and make the opacity down so we can see the one in the back clearer. Again, so we'll go back and forth and just add a couple of Gaussian blurs to this one, and just to make him get some nice depth to the scene. All right. Next, we're going to start adding. What I'm going to add, some vignette to the image. Again, I'm going to blur this one as well. All right. Again, Gaussian blur. I'm going to give this a lot. Maybe even rescale it more. Right. Again, turn down the opacity so we can see behind it. Right. Now let's add some more effects to this one. Again, you can tweak this and add as many of these or as less, maybe if you want more or less of them, and so on. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a new layer on this one. So new layer, fill this with white. Go under filter, and where you have lens correction. And we'll go ahead and add, just a sec so we can resize this, under auto correction, custom, and vignette, just add the amount you want. Alright, this is the amount, and this is the midpoint. Just tweak this to the look that you're going for. I'm going for the full, and then I can tweak that with opacity. And then a blending, I'm going to name this vignette. And blending to multiply, and then just tweak this as dark or as you want it. Again, make a new layer. For this one, I'm going to add some noise, so go and add noise. Right, the layer is empty, so just add some color. Go to filter, noise, add noise, and I want to add some, not a monochromatic, I want this colorful look just to get that noise, that movie's noise. Alright, and then I'm gonna add this to multiply as well, and just tweak it down a bit. Now I'm gonna go with screen, I think, and just tweak or soft light. Yeah, soft light. So maybe something around 10. It will add, if you barely can see it, and if you zoom in, alright, you see that there's a nice noise to the scene. You can play ahead with these guys to see the look that you're going for. You can go with lighten, you can try multiply if you want. I think overlay or soft light is the way to go. It just adds something subtle, nothing crazy. Alright. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and select all the layers, even with the Milky Way background, and I'm gonna go ahead into layer and duplicate these. I duplicate layers. Alright. And I'm gonna merge them all by hitting Command E or Control E, and this is the new layer. Alright, and this is, I'm gonna go and call this merged. Alright, because I want to add one effect to this one, and I'm gonna go to filter, lens correction again. Under custom, I'm gonna add some chromatic aberration. Oh, okay, this is what we get. This is because the image is really big. To fix that, just select the image and add the image that we selected and add the mask to it, and just go apply layer mask. And if we go to lens correction now, we should get this look. Alright, I want to add some chromatic aberration to this one, and I'm not going to go that crazy. Maybe something subtle, just to add some more effect to it. You see, it's subtle, but it is there. See, adds a bit of blur to it and some nice aberration. Especially you can see it on the edges. All right. Now for the final touch, I'm going to go add the lens flare on top of this. I already went ahead and created like a simple lens flare. I used Video Copilot's lens flare to create this one, but you can create this one in Photoshop just with a couple of brush strokes. So Control A, copy, and just drop this on top of the layer, and just go in and select linear dodge, add. Right, and see, it will add a nice look to and you can tweak this opacity down just to deal with the look that you're going for. One more, I mean, you can go ahead. One thing I want to change is the background, the Milky Way background. What I don't like about it is I want to add a more bluish look to it, more colder look to it. So that I should have done that before merging it. But to add that, I'm going to just hide this a bit. To add that, just go to the Milky Way, and under Adjustments, select Color Filter. This would be around here, Photo Filter, and I'm going to select a Cooling Filter. As you can see immediately, if you hide this, you can see this adds a cool look to the final image. Now, alright, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to open up an image that I already created, and I'm going to go over some tips just when you create your own image. Alright, so here it is. Right, so it's called It All Starts with a Cell. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and just hide the text, and I'm just going to go over some stuff that it's different from the scene that we did. So the first thing you will notice is I added a lens flare in the middle, and I also have another one with the lens flare off screen, and I think just this looks more interesting because it adds a mystery to this scene. But the other main thing you'll see is that we have different cells. So you'll see we don't have any of them different. I mean, I think this is the same as this one. This is the same. I think it's a couple of them are duplicated, like maybe twice or 3 times. What I did is I went back and created a couple of cells, because if you start looking at this, you're going to see that this is repeating too much. And what you do is you just go back into the Maya file and just do some tweaks to the vines, to the leather, and a couple of tweaks to the bump map. This is the beauty of procedural mapping, because with only a few tweaks and a few noise maps and a new noise maps on the ramp changes, it will change the look that that you want to have for the cell. And again, don't forget that you can always add some tweaks to each individual cell by selecting it in Photoshop and just adding some tweak to it. And just because even if you have this duplicated twice, it doesn't mean that it does have to look the same. You can always go back in Photoshop and just tweak it, maybe add some, really, so it doesn't look the same as the other one. All right. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful.